welcome to Race for the White House, a show where we get to the latest from the US election. On today's show, we'll tell you how Kamala Harris is trying to distance her campaign from the Biden administration ahead of the polls. Also on the show, we'll tell you about a name that's doing rounds in Trump's circle, the man who can do anything for Donald Trump. All of this and much more, so let's get started. Kamala Harris is stepping out of the shadows and she's making it clear that she is no Biden 2.0. In a bold new interview with Fox News, Harris promised to chart her own path if she wins the race to the White House. Now, this is the most direct signal yet that she's aiming to separate herself from President Joe Biden. And even though she praised his leadership but didn't promise to exactly follow his footsteps. The Democratic presidential candidate's first formal interview with the outlet ran for nearly half an hour. This was Harris's first ever sit-down with Fox News, and as a matter of fact, this was the first time in 8 years since a Democratic leader gave an interview to Fox News. Many saw this as a gamble as Harris seeks to break the deadlock in a race that remains neck to neck. Now, Fox News is traditionally seen as a tough environment for Democrats, and she was put in a hot seat with tough questions on everything from her role in the Biden administration to her own electability. But this may also come as a calculated move. By speaking directly to a more conservative and swing voter audience, Harris could be positioning herself to expand her appeal beyond the Democratic base. Now, some of the most heated exchanges came when Harris's potential term was compared to Biden. Harris was asked if there was anything she would do differently from Joe Biden, and she was also quizzed about immigration and abortion, among other hot-button issues. Now, Harris said that she would bring fresh and new ideas and added that her camp represents a new generation of leadership. Now, for Harris, the challenge now is to prove that she can walk this delicate tightrope, defending the achievements of the Biden administration while convincing voters that she can offer something new. You see, in this Fox News interview, she wasn't just speaking to her base, she was also reaching across the aisle, attempting to attract moderates and independents who might be uncertain about what a Harris presidency would look like. Now, Harris has been careful not to criticize Biden directly. In fact, she has been praising his leadership consistently. But at the same time, she's also signaling that her presidency would definitely look different. She has suggested that more aggressive actions are necessary in various areas, hinting at a leadership style that could be more urgent and assertive. So as the 2024 campaign heats up, it's clear that Kamala Harris is ready to show the nation her vision for the future. And that vision looks to be very different from Biden's. Now, whether this strategy will pay off in the polls remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure certain, that Harris is making her own mark and she is not holding back. So it's nearly been 4 years since the 2020 US presidential election, but the controversy surrounding its results refuses to die down. In a fiery statement, Republican VP contender J.D. Vance reignited the debate by firmly declaring that Donald Trump did not lose the 2020 election. Now, his comments came when Vance was taking questions from reporters at a campaign event in Pennsylvania. Now, this bold statement is causing a stir as many are pointing to the overwhelming evidence confirming Joe Biden's legitimate victory. So why is J.D. Vance still making these claims? Now, this isn't the first time that J.D. Vance has expressed unwavering support for Donald Trump. Ever since he got picked up as Trump's running mate, Vance has embraced the former president's populist agenda. He has positioned himself as one of Trump's most vocal allies, but his latest comments directly questioning the outcome of the 2020 election have drawn sharp criticism from both Democrats and some Republicans. While many in the GOP are focused on the future and preparing for the 2024 election, there are also people like Vance who are doubling down on past grievances. Now, his statement comes at a time when some Republican leaders, including those once allied with Trump, have expressed a desire to move on from the 2020 election outcome. So why are these claims, which have been debunked time and again, still so prevalent? You see, for many Trump supporters and of course now J.D. Vance, it's a rallying cry. It assures a certain segment of the Republican base that remains convinced that the system is rigged. So by continuing to push this narrative, Vance is tapping into this populist anger that helped propel Trump to power in the first place. However, the risks are high here. Experts warn that revisiting baseless claims about the 2020 election could further erode public trust in democracy. And the concern is that by continuing to question the legitimacy of elections, leaders like Vance may be doing long-term damage to the very foundation of American governance. As the 2024 campaign kicks into high gear, the question is, will continuing to revisit 2020 help GOP, or will it further damage their chances of returning? Well, Vance's decision to stand firmly behind Trump's claims signals a deep divide within the party and certainly raises questions about its strategy moving forward. So, a few questions remain. Will this rhetoric resonate with enough voters to secure victory in 2024, or could it turn off those who are already ready to move on? Well, only time will tell how Vance's position will impact both his political career and the Republican Party's chances in the polls. But one thing's for sure, the debate over the 2020 election is far from over. He's been called Donald Trump's most loyal soldier, a man willing to go to extraordinary lengths to defend the former president. But who exactly is Kash Patel? The former prosecutor turned political operative and the man who's made it his life mission to protect Donald Trump. Is he simply a loyal ally, or there's more to this enigmatic figure? Let's figure out. Now, Kash Patel is not your typical political insider. He made first his name for himself in Washington as a tough-as-nails prosecutor in the Department of Justice. But it was his role on Capitol Hill working under Republican Congressman Devin Nunes during the Russian investigation that put him in the national spotlight. So as a key staffer, Patel helped draft the infamous Nunes memo, which accused the FBI of improperly surveilling Trump's 2016 campaign. And this earned him praise from Trump's supporters and a permanent spot on the former president's radar. But his rise to prominence wasn't over yet. Patel's loyalty to Donald Trump has been unshakable ever since. He took on key roles in the Trump administration, from handling sensitive national security measures to helping oversee the withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan. But his most controversial moment may have come after Trump left the White House. Now, Kash Patel is at the center of the investigation into classified documents found at Trump's house. Now, Patel has defended Trump's handling of those materials, even claiming that Trump had declassified the documents in question, an assertion that legal experts have widely disputed. Despite the legal firestorm, Patel has remained one of Trump's staunchest defenders, refusing to back down. So what drives Kash Patel's unwavering support for Donald Trump? Well, some say it's loyalty, while others argue that he sees himself as a warrior for Trump's populist agenda. But whatever the motivation, there's no denying that Patel has become one of the most influential and controversial figures in Trump's orbit. As Trump gears up for another presidential run in 2024, Patel's role will likely grow even more critical. And now for more on this, we are being joined by White House correspondent Rohit Sharma from Washington, D.C. Thank you, Rohit, for joining us. All right. So my first question to you is, who exactly is this Kash Patel character?
Well, Kash Patel is definitely one of the most talked about Indian American when it comes to Trump administration 2.0. We've seen his rise, in the Trump ranks, Trump loyalist, and how Donald Trump even considered making him as an acting director of the CIA. Somebody who also accompanied President Trump to his visit to India in 2020. So a very interesting figure, controversial, some may say, because he obviously did not have the credentials to be at the NSC where he was. Something that has been talked about in media a lot. But looks like that he has been a staunch Trump supporter, a loyalist, and Donald Trump does like Kash Patel. So we might be able to see him serve in some capacity if Donald Trump gets elected.
All right. If you could just go ahead and explain what has he done so far and why is he so critical, especially to Trump's campaign?
Well, Kash Patel is, has a story of like many other staffers who work, on the Hill, and then they move to, either they move to State or Pentagon or the White House. So nothing out of the ordinary there. But I think what surprised a lot of people during the first administration is that without having the credentials of in the realm of national security, he got, Trump liked him enough to put him as a member on the NSC. So that was, sort of concerning to some within the Trump administration. Also, back in 2018, 2019, also the fact that, he was somebody who wanted to weed out people from the administration and from the government that were not Trump loyalists, something that Trump really liked, was considered a very, very drastic and extreme idea at that point in time, where people were questioning A, his credentials, and B, his intentions. So for him to be able to go through all that and become, manager of Truth Social, the company that manages Truth Social, to being one of those people that travels with Trump. We saw him in the rally in California, and somebody who's been raising money for Trump. Looks like he is somebody that will become potentially one of the most powerful figures in Trump 2.0.
So how would you evaluate his role if Trump comes to power again?
Well, we've talked about this in Project 2025. The whole idea of reducing government, the whole idea of replacing people with Trump loyalists, the whole idea that there could be certain political appointees with no experience, and their only credential would be that they're loyal to President Trump. Those ideas in Project 2025 playbook is something that aligns exactly with what Kash Patel had wanted to do, and more forcefully will be able to do it under a Trump 2.0 administration. Now, also remember that the Supreme Court has granted absolute immunity to any president in the U.S. As long as they're acting as the president. So it will be very interesting to see, what kind of maneuvers can Kash Patel do as a Trump loyalist, and also somebody who could very well end up being national director or senior advisor to President Trump, could run the CIA. So there are so many things that Kash Patel can do when Donald Trump gets elected. But for now, as I've said, he's focusing on making sure that he's able to raise money for President Trump, and also ensuring that the plans are well in place for Trump 2.0.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to us, Rohit. We'll be coming back to you for more updates on US elections. Now it's time to talk in numbers. With less than a month remaining for the US presidential polls, the race for the White House is becoming quite intense. Vice President Kamala Harris is maintaining a narrow lead nationally and a neck-to-neck battle in the swing state. So let's take a look at how presidential contenders are faring in polls today. According to the New York Times poll, Harris is leading in the national polls with an approval rating of about 49%, while Trump is trailing at 47%. Now, in the swing states of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, Harris is maintaining a lead at about 49%, while Trump is at 48%. In the states of Michigan, North Carolina, and Nevada, both Harris and Trump are logged in with an approval rating of about 48%. And in the state of Georgia, Trump has taken a lead this time with an approval rating of about 49%, while Harris is at 48%. And in the state of Arizona, Trump is still leading with an approval rating of about 49%, while Harris is at 47%. So with just a few days remaining for the elections, it looks like the polls are swinging from left to right every day. And now it's time to get you some quick updates from the political landscape in the US that you might have missed. First up, a seemingly uncomfortable conversation between former President Barack Obama and Joe Biden has gone viral and sparked a slew of speculations and theories on social media. So the duo were caught on camera having an intense conversation during the service for Ethel Kennedy's funeral, and the video with no audio captures Obama shaking his head as Biden is trying to convince him about something. Now you see, the funeral is the first time that Obama and Biden have met since the current president abandoned his re-election bid and endorsed Kamala Harris. Next up, former President Jimmy Carter cast his ballot in the presidential race in Georgia on the second day of early voting in his home state. Now, Carter turned 100 earlier this month, becoming the first former president in US history to do so, and he has been hospitalized care in his home in Plains, Georgia since February 2023. And last up, a local judge in Georgia delivered a sweeping ruling that rejected multiple new rules governing elections in the state. Now, these rules were described as illegal, unconstitutional, and void. And now, most of these rules are knocked down by the court, closely aligned with the priorities of right-wing activists, and were approved by the Georgia State Election Board. So, they included mandates to code election ballots by hand, expand the monitoring of ballot drop boxes, and requiring new identification for delivering absentee ballots. Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of Race for the White House. Stay tuned to India Today Global for more such updates.